Your Majesty, you have to sleep with me. His brows furrowed even tighter, looking like they could crush a fly between them. Shen Luo Yi, you are truly insolent. At 5 or 6 years old, I was sent into the depths of the palace like a political pawn to secure the country. I was married to the young emperor, who had just lost both his parents, the boy, whose eyes were filled with deep hatred. The day I became the Empress of Great Xiao, there was no phoenix crown, no grand ceremony, and no universal celebration. There was only the heavy, despairing sound of my father closing the thick palace gates behind me. That sound was like an ice-cold blade, ruthlessly severing all ties between me and the Shen family, along with 7 years of carefree childhood. On the sickbed, the woman known as the motherly model of the world spoke in a weak, fading voice. Minister Shen Luo Yi is a good child. Let her stay by Yun Hang's side. I can pass away in peace. My father, the current Grand Tutor Shen Ming, the same man, who would feel heartbroken if even a single strand of my hair fell, now gripped my shoulders so tightly it felt like he would crush my bones. I heard him reply in a hoarse, unfamiliar voice I had never heard before. Empress. Those 2 words landed like Mount Tai crashing down. My whole body trembled. In the end, I couldn't hold it in any longer. Tears poured out like a broken dam. I clutched desperately at the hem of my mother's robe beside me. It was my last and only lifeline. Mother, I don't want this. I don't want to be Empress. Luo Yi wants to go home. My cries echoed through the silent grand hall, sharp and piercing, carrying the raw fear and instinctive pleading of a child. Mother, can't you take me home? My mother didn't answer. She only held me tighter, her body shaking even harder than mine. I could feel her hot tears falling onto my hair. The moment the late Empress drew her last breath, mournful wailing filled Qian Qing Palace. At that moment, I finally understood. From now on, these 4 walls of the palace were no longer my home, they were my prison. On my first night, as Empress, I nearly got swallowed whole by the enormous dragon phoenix bed. It's true, Phoenix Rest Palace had everything good. Except it was far too vast. So vast it felt empty. So vast it lacked any trace of human warmth. I curled up in the innermost corner of the dragon bed, wrapping myself tightly in the gold-embroidered quilt like a silkworm cocoon. Yet I still felt cold. The chill seeped in from all directions, sinking deep into my bones. I didn't dare cry out loud. I bit my lip hard, swallowing my small sobs. Mother once told me, in the imperial palace, tears are the cheapest thing, especially in front of others. But when a cold wind blew through, rattling the windows, with a creak, I still couldn't hold back. A single tear fell onto the icy silk pillow, spreading into a dark stain. Once there was one drop, the second was sure to follow. The silence amplified my sobbing many times over, echoing through the vast sleeping chamber. It no longer sounded like my own voice. Instead, it felt like some invisible spirit was crying along with me. That thought made my scalp tingle. All my forced bravery and pretense shattered in an instant. I couldn't hold it back anymore, and burst into loud, heart-wrenching wails, pouring out all my terror, grievance, and homesickness without restraint. Mother. Mother. Father. Big brother. Luo Yi is so scared. Just as I was crying, so hard I could barely breathe, and felt like I might faint, the door to the sleeping chamber creaked open a small crack. Moonlight slipped through the gap, casting a tall, slender shadow onto the floor. I was so terrified I forgot to cry. I stared fixedly at that shadow, my blood running cold. So noisy I could die. A cold, impatient young man's voice pierced through my fear like an ice pick. I am Xiao Yun Hang. He stepped inside, still wearing the white mourning robes from earlier that day. Moonlight outlined his tightly clenched jawline. He must have just fallen asleep when I woke him. A murderous aura radiated from between his brows. Why are you crying in the middle of the night instead of sleeping? Do you want to attract unclean things here? His words were harsh. Yet the moment I saw him, I felt like a drowning person grabbing the only floating log. I scrambled off the bed in a panic, not even bothering with shoes, and ran barefoot toward him. I threw my arms around his leg, rubbing all my tears and snot onto his luxurious robe, without any shame. Big brother Yun Hang, I'm so scared. I sobbed uncontrollably. I miss Mother. I want to go home. I don't want to be Empress anymore. Tell them to let me go home. He staggered from my hug, his body stiff as stone. I thought he would push me away, or scold me like he used to at the Grand Tutor's residence for having no manners. But he didn't. He stood there silently for a long time, so long I thought he had fallen asleep. Then I heard a soft sigh, from above my head, like a snowflake landing on red-hot iron, vanishing in an instant. So troublesome. Even as he complained, he reached out somewhat awkwardly, and patted my back in uneven strokes. There was no rhythm to it, yet it carried a strange comforting strength. Don't cry anymore. He spoke in a low voice, the irritation in his tone fading significantly. You're making me upset with all this crying. He had already started referring to himself as the Emperor. I was momentarily stunned, and looked up at him, with tear-streaked eyes. Under the moonlight, his face was still deathly pale. Those deep black eyes were like an ancient well, with no bottom, reflecting my disheveled appearance. "Do you want to eat Osmanthus sugar-steamed cakes?" he suddenly asked, his voice calm and steady. "There's also fresh milk cakes, crab roe pastries." He listed several of my favorite snacks in one breath. My sobbing gradually stopped, leaving only a few hiccups. "Yes." "Then stop crying." He lowered his gaze, long lashes casting shadows over his eyes. "Tomorrow I'll have the imperial kitchen make them for you. But you have to sleep obediently now." I nodded obediently, but still clutched tightly to the hem of his robe. "What's wrong?" He frowned. I sniffled, gathered all the courage in my life, and whispered my request, with firm determination. "Your Majesty, you have to sleep with me." His brows furrowed even tighter, almost tight enough to crush a flying bug. "Shen Luo Yi, you're being insolent." Luo Yi is scared. My tears started welling up again. "There are ghosts here. One was just crying with me earlier." The corner of Xiao Yun Hang's mouth twitched slightly. We stayed like that, one standing, one squatting while hugging his leg, locked in a stalemate in the quiet darkness. Only the soft breathing of two children filled the air. After who knows how long, he finally squeezed out one word, through gritted teeth, as if using every last bit of his strength. "Fine." That night, the Emperor of Great Xiao and I lay side by side on the enormous dragon phoenix bed that could swallow a person whole. A wide boundary of Chu and Han separated us, enough space to fit several more people like me. I didn't dare get too close, but I could still clearly smell the faint, pleasant scent of gilded on him. Listening to his steady, shallow breathing, the darkness no longer felt so terrifying. Even the cold bedding seemed to gain a trace of warmth, because he was there. I clutched the edge of the quilt and thought drowsily, maybe in this giant golden prison, Xiao Yun Hang is the only person I can hold on to. By the 10th time I snuck into the sleeping chamber at night to sleep, and was carried back to Phoenix Rest Palace the next morning like a kitten by the expressionless Xiao Yun Hang, I finally realized, belatedly, that this had become an unbreakable routine of mine in the palace. At first it was out of fear. Later, it simply became something I couldn't quit. Humans are creatures of habit, and children even more so. During the day, Phoenix Rest Palace was actually a wonderful place. There were palace maids to play hide-and-seek, and cat's cradle, with me, eunuchs who could do magic tricks, and fly kites. And Xiao Yun Hang, as if keeping his promise, sent all kinds of beautiful snacks every day, many of which I couldn't even name. Fresh milk and water chestnut cakes, crab roe pastries, plum blossom cakes, Buddha's hand almond cookies, so many sweets to comfort everything. I almost forgot about the big locust tree in front of the Shen residence. I also gradually stopped remembering the familiar scent of my mother's embrace. This golden prison was gently wearing down my edges, and draining my old memories in the softest way possible. But every night, when everyone withdrew, the fear of being swallowed by the vast emptiness would return like a shadow. So I began my nightly journey, hugging my little pillow, wearing slightly rumpled sleeping clothes, barefoot, memorizing every twist, and turned through the winding corridor straight to Xiao Yun Hang's Qian Qing Palace. The eunuchs guarding the door went, from frantically trying to stop me in the beginning to turning a blind eye later on. Even now, Chief Eunuch Wang Jin would proactively step forward, when he saw me like this. Lowering his voice. "Your Majesty the Empress, please be quieter. His Majesty has just finished reviewing memorials, and is reading right now." I nodded, then tiptoed inside like a little animal patrolling its territory. Most of the time, Xiao Yun Hang was behind the imperial desk, a small youth buried behind a pile of memorials taller than himself. Candlelight illuminated the childish chubbiness still lingering on his face, creating a soft glow, but it did nothing to ease the heavy, cold solemnity between his brows, that didn't belong to his age. He would only look up, from the mountain of state affairs, when he heard me scrambling, onto the bed. "Shen Luo Yi." He would call me by my full name, his voice slightly hoarse, after reviewing memorials. "Go back to your Phoenix Rest Palace." I had long since memorized this familiar routine. Holding my pillow in one arm, and gripping the edge of the bed, with the other, I struggled to climb up, while declaring loudly, "I'm sleeping here." He gently set down his cinnabar brush, walked over, and precisely grabbed the back of my collar, lifting me like a chicken ready for slaughter. "Did you not understand what we said?" His eyes were ice cold, completely emotionless. I said nothing, only opened my eyes wide, and looked at him obediently, pitifully. Tears quickly gathered in my eyes, and stubbornly rolled down my lashes, sparkling with fragmented light under the candle flame. This was the tactic I had spent 10 whole days figuring out, the only, and most effective weapon against him. It worked every single time. Sure enough, after about 10 breaths of staring at each other, the icy mask on Xiao Yun Hang's face finally softened. He released me. I landed with a soft thud back, into the soft bedding. A long sigh full of complicated emotions came, from above my head. "I must have owed you in a previous life." Leaving those words behind, he turned back to his desk, and continued wrestling, with the dry official documents. I happily hugged my little pillow, curled up contentedly in the inner corner of his bed like a ball, and breathed in the faint, refreshing scent of gilded on his bedding. Listening to the rustle of his brush gliding across paper not far away, my heart felt completely at peace. Sometimes I would fall asleep and unconsciously snuggle closer to him. Once, in a half-dazed state, I felt him finish reviewing the memorials, lie down beside me, and I instinctively rolled over, resting my head on his arm. I felt his body stiffen for a moment. Then a slightly calloused hand gently rested on my head. In the darkness, I heard him speak in a mere whisper, in a tone I had never heard before, complicated and deep. "Little girl, grow up quickly." On my 14th birthday, the gift Xiao Yun Hang gave me was the lively hustle and bustle of the entire capital city. "I want to eat that one." I pointed at the tall bundle of straw carried by a street vendor. The bright red candied haws glistened, their sugar coating as clear as crystal. I almost jumped with excitement. "Buy it." Xiao Yun Hang walked behind me, with his hands clasped behind his back. He wore a moon-white robe that had been washed until faded, shedding the majestic aura of an emperor for the moment. He looked like a refined young scholar, with a faint smile on his lips that he himself wasn't even aware of. The doting in his eyes seemed ready to overflow. This was the first time in 7 years I had stepped foot outside the palace walls. What lingered on the tip of my nose was no longer the delicate fragrance of famous flowers from the imperial garden, but the smoky aroma of roasted chestnuts, the oily scent of fried stalls, and the sweet smell of powder and rouge. All the smells mixed together, chaotic, yet so vibrant it brought tears to my eyes. Like a fledgling bird just released from its cage, everything felt new and exciting to me. I dragged Xiao Yun Hang through the bustling crowds. "Look, that person making dough figurines made one that looks just like you." "Yun Hang, that acrobat over there can breathe fire." "Yun Hang, look at that cloud on the horizon. Doesn't it look like a puppy rolling around?" I shook his hand and looked up at him with a smile. He smiled helplessly but indulgently. "Little girl, you've just left the palace. Even a hole in the sky would probably seem novel to you." He complained with his mouth, but patiently followed behind me. He spent every last scrap of silver on his person just to buy me thin cut paper arts, a few ugly dough figurines, and an armful of snacks I couldn't even carry. At dusk, we returned heavily loaded. I had a stick of malt candy in my mouth, mumbling stories about the palace to him. He listened quietly, occasionally responding with a soft, The imperial carriage passed, through a quiet alley on the way back to the palace. Just as I finished speaking, the sharp sound of weapons slicing through the air rang out, from outside the carriage. That sound was like the whistle of the Grim Reaper. Before I could even react, Xiao Yun Hang's expression changed drastically. Almost on instinct, he pulled me tightly, into his chest, shielding me completely, with his body. A dull thud sounded, like a sharp blade piercing, through animal hide. I felt the body embracing me suddenly stiffen, followed by a suppressed, extremely painful groan. Outside the carriage, furious shouts from the imperial guards mixed, with the clashing of swords, and blades that I couldn't see anything. I could only smell the thick, hot stench of blood rushing, into my nose. It was blood, Xiao Yun Hang's blood. Yun Hang. I panicked, struggling to lift my head. But he held me down. With irresistible strength. "Don't move." His voice, hoarse and trembling, from the pain, still tried to comfort me. Only when the fighting outside gradually died down did he finally release me. On his shoulder, the moon-white fabric was soaked dark red, with blood, blooming into a bewitching red plum blossom, that made one's heart tremble. A black-feathered arrow quivered slightly, with each of his breaths. His face was as white as paper. At that moment, my world fell into complete silence. Chaos erupted in Qian Qing Palace. Imperial physicians knelt all over the floor. Chief Physician Zhang, sweating profusely, trembled as he reported, "Your Majesty the Empress, please be at ease. His Majesty is blessed with great fortune and has a strong constitution. This is merely an external wound. With proper rest, he'll recover in less than half a month." "Speak clearly." I stared at him, my voice so cold it even surprised me. "Is it serious or not?" Physician Zhang shuddered and stopped beating around the bush. "Reporting to your Majesty, there was poison on the arrow. Fortunately, the toxicity wasn't strong. This humble subject has already cleaned the wound and applied medicine. However, His Majesty has been poisoned. If he can wake up tonight, there should be nothing to worry about." I waved everyone away and kept vigil alone beside his dragon bed. It was the first time I had looked at him so carefully. When he was asleep, he no longer had his usual coldness and majesty. 1417, his long, thick lashes cast faint shadows beneath his eyes. His lips were pale from blood loss. He was no longer the lofty emperor, but simply my Yun Hang, the one who would hold me when I was afraid of the dark, buy me candied hawthorn figurines, and unhesitatingly stand in front of me whenever danger approached. Xiao Yun Hang. My heart felt like it was being cruelly squeezed by an invisible hand, painful enough to suffocate me. In the middle of the night, a palace maid brought in the freshly brewed medicine. But his lips were tightly pressed together. No matter what, we couldn't get it in. "Your Majesty, what should we do?" The young palace maid was on the verge of tears. "If the medicine gets cold, it will lose its effectiveness." I looked at his bloodless lips, my mind going blank. I only knew one thing. I absolutely could not let anything happen to him. I could not. Under the horrified gaze of the palace maid, I took the bowl, drank the entire bitter black medicine in one gulp, then leaned down and pressed my lips against his cold ones. When Xiao Yun Hang woke up, what he saw was me slumped over the edge of the bed, my face still streaked with dried tears. He moved slightly, as if wanting to raise his hand, but the motion pulled at his wound and made him inhale sharply. I immediately woke up and anxiously moved closer. "You're awake." He looked at my swollen, red eyes from crying, and gave a weak smile on his pale face. "Little girl, you've finally learned to worry about me?" I sniffled, not daring to touch him. I could only timidly reach out a finger and gently stroke the air above his heavily bandaged shoulder. "Does it still hurt?" My voice was thick, with nasal sounds, and I was about to cry again. He looked at me, his eyes surging, with emotions too deep for me to understand. He coughed lightly, and turned his head away somewhat awkwardly. But I sharp-eyed noticed that the tips of his jade-white ears had turned a faint shade of pink. "Why were you so foolish back then?" he asked in a low, hoarse voice. "Didn't you know to dodge?" I moved closer, looking straight into those eyes deeper than the night itself. "If I had dodged, what would you have done?" Every word carried all the seriousness and fear in my heart. The winter that year came early, signaling that my peaceful days were about to end. It wasn't the first snow of the season, but a cup of tea brought by the wife of Duke Xian of the state. "Your Majesty, in just over a month you will undergo the capping ceremony, and truly become an adult." The wife of Duke Xian sat upright in her chair, smiling gracefully and modestly, her tone gentle and refined, as if she were discussing household matters. The harem cannot remain empty forever. Expanding the harem to continue the imperial bloodline is the foremost virtuous duty of an empress. The plum blossoms the lady brought were blooming brilliantly, each petal seemingly carved with care. Every word she spoke was equally flawless, leaving no room for criticism. Yet as I held the teacup, the warm tea felt ice-cold sliding down my throat all the way to my heart. In the following days, every time Xiao Yun Hang returned from court, his expression wasn't good. I secretly heard, from Wang Jin, that the white-haired old ministers had gone crazy, flooding the court with memorials like winter snow, all with one purpose. It was time for His Majesty to expand the harem and secure the imperial succession. One stubborn imperial censor even threatened death in his memorial, and was immediately stripped of rank and dragged away by Xiao Yun Hang. That night when I went to Qian Qing Palace, he was reviewing memorials under the lamp. I placed a freshly picked red plum branch from the imperial garden into the white jade vase on his desk and imitated the graceful tone of the duke's wife. "Yun Hang, you shouldn't blame the ministers too much. They're only thinking of the great Xiao Empire and want you to have your own children soon." The brush made an ugly long scratch across the paper. Xiao Yun Hang set it down with a clack, leaned back in his chair, and looked at me emotionlessly. His gaze was calm, yet it felt like a hook that could drag out every hidden thought in the bottom of my heart and lay them bare under the clear sky. "Who taught you to say these things?" The moment he spoke, I knew I had messed up. I fidgeted nervously with my sleeve, not daring to meet his eyes. It was the wife of Duke Xian. She said that, as empress, one must be magnanimous. He repeated the word, magnanimous, drawing out the ending with a dangerous chill. He stood up and walked toward me step by step. His familiar breath, mixed with the scent of ink and dragon musk, enveloped me with overwhelming pressure. I clenched my palms nervously, but he didn't scold me. He simply reached out, pulled me into his arms, sat me on his lap, and rested his chin gently on my shoulder. "Luo Yi." He called my name. His voice was gentle, like coaxing a sulking child. "I'm going to ask you something. You must answer me truthfully. If..." He paused for a moment. His warm breath brushed against my ear, carrying a faint itch. "If I really listened to them, and took in one woman, or even many. Women taller than you, more beautiful than you, more obedient and understanding than you, to enter the palace." My body stiffened uncontrollably. During the day I would dine with them, and at night I would stay by their side, just like we are now. His voice was soft and gentle, yet each word struck like a small hammer against the softest part of my heart. "Would you be happy?" My mind became a tangled mess at that moment. I remembered the perfectly measured smile of the Duke's wife, and the heavy words like, virtuous duty. I should have nodded, should have said, this servant wouldn't dare, should have said, this was my duty as empress. But I also remembered countless stormy nights, when he held me tight, and covered my ears. I remembered when I was sick, and couldn't swallow medicine. He tasted every kind of preserved fruit in the imperial kitchen just to find the sweetest one for me. I remembered how, over the past 7 years I had grown used to his breathing beside my pillow, and how, in my sleep, I could snuggle into his warm, broad chest. If that warmth belonged to someone else, if during thunderstorms he was no longer by my side, if I woke up in the middle of the night and reached out only to touch cold, empty silence, then what would I do? I used every ounce of strength in my heart, answering with utmost seriousness and determination as I shook my head. Not happy. I looked up and met his deep gaze, my voice carrying grievance I didn't even realize. I would be extremely, extremely unhappy. I added softly, as if afraid he wouldn't understand clearly. Then when I'm scared of thunder, scared of rain, or can't sleep, what should I do? He laughed. It was like winter snow melting, and rivers thawing. His laughter carried relief, fulfillment of a wish, and overflowing joy, that seemed ready to spill over. He gently stroked my long hair, as if soothing a little bristled-up animal, that had almost been tricked away by someone else. Then isn't that settled? His voice was slightly hoarse with satisfaction. He leaned close to my ear, and warned in a volume only the two of us could hear, emphasizing each word. So from now on, you are not allowed to say such foolish things again. Otherwise, I will really get angry. When the heavy 9 phoenix golden crown was placed firmly on my hair bun, nearly breaking my neck with its weight, what I felt was not the glory of being the motherly model of the world, but the entire great Xiao Empire, and the rest of my life pressing down on me. The girl in the mirror, with phoenix eyes and cherry lips, wore an intricately embroidered crimson wedding robe. Layer upon layer of golden threaded phoenixes made it so magnificent it was hard to breathe. Yet the face beneath the shadow of the phoenix crown was deathly pale. I was like a marionette pulled by beautiful silk strings, surrounded by palace servants, as I walked step by step down the long palace path, up the 99 white jade steps leading to Taiha Hall. At the top of the stairs stood the majestic figure in the 12-chapter imperial robe, my final destination, and lifelong harbor in this life. Xiao Yun Hang stood there silently, wearing the flat heavenly crown, with 12 strings of jade beads hanging down, covering more than half of his expression, yet unable to hide his eyes, that pierced through the civil and military officials, through the noisy ceremonial music, and locked firmly onto me a pair of deep black eyes. According to protocol for an imperial wedding, the emperor should wait in front of the hall to welcome the empress, and the empress must ascend the steps herself to show reverence for the supreme authority. But the moment I reached the last jade step, and nearly fainted, from exhaustion, swaying for a split second, he reached out toward me. That hand, whose fingers had once carved wooden toys for me, and wiped away my tears, extended right in front of me. Under the watchful eyes of the civil and military officials, and foreign envoys, I heard the shocked gasp of the chief ritual official behind me. Chief Eunuch Wang Jin's face turned deathly pale, his lips trembling. Your Majesty, this is against protocol. Before he could step forward to advise, a cold glance from Xiao Yun Hang silenced him completely. I stared blankly at that hand, then, under the gaze of those bottomless eyes, slowly placed my cold, limp fingers into his large, warm palm. He gripped my hand firmly, and steadily pulled me up the final step to stand beside him. The subsequent ceremonies, worshipping heaven and ancestors, receiving the officials' homage, dragged on endlessly. By the time everything was finished, and I was brought to the newly decorated Qian Qing Palace, I was already exhausted. I didn't even know how I ended up sitting on the wedding bed. I only remembered everything was a blinding red enough to dazzle the eyes. The wedding matron kept chattering auspicious words in my ear, but my mind was already a mess. My eyelids felt as heavy as lead. As soon as my head tilted, I fell fast asleep. I didn't know how much time had passed, when I felt someone gently shaking me. Luo Yi, wake up. A familiar yet incredibly gentle voice, like a feather brushing across my hand. I drowsily opened my eyes, and realized all the palace servants had already withdrawn. The vast sleeping chamber now held only me, and Xiao Yun Hang. He had removed the heavy ceremonial robe, and wore only a bright red inner robe. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he looked at me, with a mix of helplessness and heartache. Wearing the phoenix crown for so long, it must be very heavy, right? Let me help you take it off. Only then did I realize my neck had gone completely stiff, and sore, as if it no longer belonged to me. I looked at him, with teary, aggrieved eyes and spread my arms, and legs like a turtle flipped, onto its back. He chuckled and carefully removed the heavy crown, then patiently took out the hundreds of gold and jade hairpins one by one. My hair bun loosened, and my long black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. My whole body suddenly felt much lighter. But with that came belated clarity and nervousness. Only then did I realize tonight was our wedding night. Watching him begin to remove his own outer robe, my mind went boom like a firework exploding. Fragmented memories of husband and wife matters I had heard and seen flooded in uncontrollably. I hurriedly grabbed the brocade quilt and wrapped myself, from head to toe like a spring roll, glaring at him warily. What do you want to do? He was momentarily stunned by my reaction, then looked at me with amusement. I spoke bravely but trembled inside. Don't come over here. You scoundrel. I only took off my outer robe, and sat on the edge of your bed. How does that make me a scoundrel?